Hi, I'm actor Ian Champion, and welcome to History of Horror Cinema, my podcast series devoted to the good, bad, and the ugly of horror movie history. Please don't forget to like what you hear and hit subscribe. I have such sights to show you. The Return of Dr. X, 1939. 7 years after Warner Brothers released the excellent Dr. X, they went back to the well with The Return of Dr. X, though this only had minor connections to its predecessor. The fast pace of the Michael Curtiz-directed original was present in this version, along with the story emphasis being on a journalistic crime thriller with added humor more than horror. Also, the first film's fascination with synthetic flesh was now translated into the world of hematology and synthetic blood. Director Vincent Sherman, who later went on to work with Joan Crawford 3 times, made his Warner Brothers directing debut here. He had a useful reputation in Hollywood for being able to rewrite average scripts to make far better films. The focus of the film is on the likable Walter Garrett, a newspaper reporter with a breezy, loose style and an inveterate weakness for the ladies, much like Lee Tracy in the original Dr. X. He is plunged straight into a bizarre murder mystery when he arranges to interview glamorous actress Angela Merova, Laya Lease, in her apartment. He arrives to find her dead on the lounge carpet. As if that isn't bad enough, her body disappears. After reporting the sudden scoop, his long-suffering editor Joe Crean fires him when Merova turns up very much alive in his office, threatening to sue for reputational damage. Luckily for Walter, he has a valuable friend in Dr. Rhodes, future Warner's leading man Dennis Morgan, a physician he comes to with his conundrum. The body he saw was drained of blood and had suffered a 4-inch chest wound around the heart. How could she return to life? Rhodes is skeptical, but after analyzing the blood and finding its composition looks artificial, asks his surgeon mentor and hematology expert Dr. Flagg, John Lytle. Here we delve into the interesting world of blood types, which oddly in the film are numbered as 1 to 4, with 1 being the rarest. In reality, types A, B, and O had been categorized as such back in 1901 by Karl Landsteiner, his assistants adding AB a year later. No matter, as the plot, if not the platelets, thicken. Blood is the source of life, intones Dr. Flagg, whose work will emerge as less obvious than his statements. By now, Warner Brothers had made its name as an innovator pioneering the sound feature in 1927's The Jazz Singer, as well as the home of the gangster picture and the gritty, socially significant film. They made stars of the formidable Bette Davis, Errol Flynn, and a whole roster of names forever associated with tough gangland roles like Edward G. Robinson and James Cagney. Another luminary who is about to make an unlikely and only horror appearance in this very film was Humphrey Bogart. He would hit his stride as an A-list leading man in the 1940s, but before the likes of The Maltese Falcon and Casablanca could seal his screen immortality, he had parlayed his Broadway experience into a Warner's contract that first broke him in as a gangster with Cagney in the marvelous double whammy of Angels with Dirty Faces and The Roaring Twenties. He would go on to win an Academy Award for The African Queen in 1951. Bogart fans who don't like horror films should still see his work in The Return of Dr. X, as his Dr. Kane shows a different side to the blue-collar tough guy he inhabited willingly elsewhere. Kane is introduced to Garrett as an enigmatic colleague of Dr. Flagg, his memorable appearance working against his secretiveness. His skin has an exsanguinated pallor, with a white Bride of Frankenstein streak to his hair and a disabled gloved left hand clasped to his body. And there's an eerie poise about him that draws unwitting attention, despite his innocuous stroking of a cute white rabbit, until mentioning of blood triggers an involuntary shattering of a glass instrument. Clearly, this is a man with a past that needs investigating. Just the type that Garrett's newshound instincts cannot ignore. Sure enough, Garrett and Rhodes uncover Kane's secret, that he is actually the convicted and executed murderer Dr. Xavier, whose grave is empty. Foolishly, Dr. Flagg had revived his hitherto wasted talent for further research. He proves this by rejuvenating the now dead rabbit from earlier. He cannot deny that injecting his restored subjects with artificial blood prevents their cells from self-regeneration, resulting in a homicidal bloodlust. "My experiments have turned to madness. I've created a monster." His growth of a conscience is too late, though, as Xavier pops in to shoot him by way of a reward for squealing and kidnaps blood donor Joan, Rosemary Lane, for a chase finale that returns him to the cemetery for good. The return of Dr. X is definitely a B picture, but none the worse for being heavily influenced by Warner's famous house style of hard-boiled crime dialogue, most notably in the insults accorded to Garrett by his editor and Charles Wilson's Detective Kincaid. Listen, rigor mortis. The film gains extra zing and energy from the wisecracking conflict dogging Garrett's attempts to convince others of his nose for a real story. Making 1940s Flight Angels inspired a passion for flying in Wayne Morris, who then trained as a fighter pilot and later served with distinction in aerial combat during World War II, earning 4 Distinguished Flying Crosses and 2 Air Medals from the United States Air Force. Incidentally, at the time of writing this, Walter Sherman must rank as the oldest creative ever to record a DVD commentary for the 2006 re-release of this film at the age of 99. It was a fortunate move as he passed away just before his 100th birthday. Thanks for listening, and if you like what you've just heard, don't forget to click so, and please hit subscribe. If you build it, they will come.